everyone. Welcome to the new episode of Life That Said Yes Conversations. And today I'm joined by Susan Aposhyan. Susan has been working with meditation, psychology, yoga, bodywork, dance, and dance therapy since the 1970s. She discovered body-mind centering, the work of Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen, and became a BMC practitioner in 1982 and teacher in 1985. As she saw the impossibility of working with the body without addressing the emotions directly, she began developing body-mind psychotherapy through both clinical work and teaching. Susan, welcome and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. I'm glad to be here.
So, where are you located at the moment?
I'm in Boulder, Colorado. So I'm right at the edge of the mountains in the United States. So it's, little mountains on the East Coast and then plains, and then the Rocky Mountains start. I'm looking at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains out my window right now.
Beautiful. That's one of my wishes to visit United States for its nature.
Yeah, the nature, the wilderness. We have so much more wilderness.
When did you meet Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen?
I met Bonnie for the first time in 1979 in New York City, and she was doing a workshop at a studio, Moving Arts, I think it was called. And I'd been avoiding her for a while because I had this feeling that it was just going to derail my life. I was dancing and I wanted to keep dancing. I'd been dancing on the West Coast and then had moved back to the East Coast to dance. And yeah, 1979, I met her, and that was all she wrote. You know, it's I was working as a dance therapist and studying dance therapy then, but I just started taking body mind centering classes, and then I moved to Northampton, which is near Amherst, which is where she was teaching at the time. And she had just moved to Massachusetts too. So we were the first cohort, I think, in Massachusetts. I think she had done one in New York City and then moved to Massachusetts. And she completely captured my imagination in every way. And most people don't know, but I wrote the introduction to Sensing. I forget the title now. What is it? Sensing, Feeling, and Action.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote the introduction for that. And I talked about meeting her for the first time in that introduction. And the thing that she said that just blew my mind is I asked, I think it was me that asked, I said, what is all this tension in our bodies?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, it's mind watching itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a meditator, so I knew about mind, observing things, but I just, still, I wonder about that statement. And
Mm-hmm.
there's not that many people in the world that say things that make me wonder for 5 decades. Yeah. So it was a beautiful thing to meet her and feel like this pocket of wisdom that I didn't even know
Mm-hmm.
could possibly exist. I didn't even imagine it.
Right. It's funny that you mentioned this sentence from the introduction, the mind watching itself, because I remember reading that sentence and wondering, what does it mean?
What the hell does that mean?
And I wasn't sure if it's the mind watching as observing itself or the mind watching like guarding itself,
Observing.
observing.
Yeah. I think I can say that confidently. That was the spirit of how she said it.
Okay,
I think that's accurate.
right. But can we go a little bit backwards to this initial feeling that you had of avoiding her because of having this sense that it is some groundbreaking knowledge that will change your life path?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a profound feeling. It was just being a young person and feeling like this is where I'm headed and I've got a plan here.
Mhm.
And I don't want to be diverted from my plan.
Right.
So, I just had a feeling, that's all I know.
Mhm. So did the body mind centering teachings in a way divert your plan?
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, otherwise I mean, I think something else, if body mind centering didn't exist, something else would have diverted me. But yeah, absolutely. Instead of staying in New York and performing and teaching and getting a master's in dance therapy, I moved to Northampton.
Right. So when you first encountered BMC material and embodied it, experienced it through yourself, through your experience, what was it that sparked an interest in you? Do you remember anything in particular?
I think what sparked an interest was just Bonnie's presence,
Okay.
and the way that she was approaching the body was so unique back then.
Mm-hmm.
It was so different than anything that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also I wrote in that introduction that I felt like she had an ability to penetrate microscopically to observe the body. But it wasn't just microscopically into the body, it was microscopically into moments of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So the quality of presence was very unique. And and then on a practical level, I think what we were working on that day, or I think it was just a day, was homologous push from the upper.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been pretty collapsed around my heart, pretty constricted around my heart. And, I was trying to compensate for that. And this is all I knew how to do was compensate for it. And, I started to find like, oh, there's a whole different possibility here.
Mm-hmm.
And, because it was about my heart, it was so personal and affected me in every way.
Mm-hmm.
So it changed everything to have a very constricted, traumatized heart and then just be trying to be present with that. And then to feel like, no, there's an actual change that could happen and my heart could open. And, I didn't experience all that day, but I glimpsed it and the possibility of having a safe heart,
Mm-hmm.
after a very constricted, fearful, traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that does change everything.
Right, 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 right. I can relate to this feeling of possibility of change, a
Yeah.
glimpse of the change, a glimpse of something more original or freeing ourselves
Yeah.
from the constriction.
Yeah.
And I think this is these moments of inspiration, of excitement of freeing ourselves. It's what's taking us further and further into exploration.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the possibility of helping others free themselves,
Right,
becomes this magical potential
right, right,
that is irresistible on a certain level.
right.
I had been, before I moved back to New York City in 1979, I had been in the Bay Area, and I got my first real job there. I got a dance therapy job, and I didn't have a degree in dance therapy. I had a degree in dance and psychology.
Okay.
So they didn't know it was with the schools, and they didn't know what dance therapy was. Nobody knew what dance therapy was, but they got a grant for it, and they hired me to do dance therapy with children that were profoundly challenged
Mm,
neurologically, sight, hearing, movement, everything. And so I would go in there and sing and dance and hold hands and move around with the kids. And then it was only in the mornings, this job. And I'd come home and I'd eat lunch and I'd fall asleep at the kitchen table. And I'd dream about the children,
mm,
but without any handicaps.
mm,
It still makes me cry to
mm,
just remember that. I remember this little girl. She was tiny, but I think her growth was quite stunted. I don't remember how old she was, but I would stand on my knees and I'd hold her hands, and we would just kind of hold each other's hands and sway for 20 minutes. You know, it was probably like an individual session that we were scheduled to do. And to enter her world and to feel the profound isolation that she was living in.
mm.
I think she was blind and deaf.
Wow.
And it was very neutral. Her mind was very neutral. She didn't feel afraid or desperate for anything. It was like she didn't even know what was possible
Mm,
for a human interaction.
mhm,
It was amazing. And so then to dream about her without any of these handicaps, and she was a normal kid and she was laughing and thinking and playing. And that made me decide, okay, I need to really study dance therapy. And
mhm,
so I went to New York to do that. And when I got there, this woman that was my teacher at New York University, we became friends decades later. But at the time, she would come to class in stiletto heels. You know what that is? You know that word. And cigarette in a cigarette holder.
mhm.
And she would teach sitting with her legs crossed, smoking cigarettes.
I can visualize.
It was hilarious. I mean, would anybody believe that would happen now? But then, you know,
Yeah.
it was what was being done. So, I realized pretty quickly, like, yeah, they don't really know what dance therapy could be either. So I'm gonna have to make this up. And then is when I met Bonnie. And so then I thought, oh, I don't have to make this up. Somebody actually knows something about this.
Right. So this whole dance therapy field was pretty new, right? It was just.
Yeah, it's pretty new. And, people would be terribly insulted to hear me say, I'm just counting on none of those people will ever hear this. Most of them are dead. But, to say they didn't know anything about what dance therapy could be, it was, Janet Adler was the one exception back then where,
Mhm.
she was doing something more profound.
Mm.
But otherwise, they were just playing around with stilettos and cigarettes,
Right, 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 right.
trying to make the psychiatrist feel good about who they were.
Uh-huh.
So it was pretty ludicrous.
So, and then you encountered Bonnie and you started, let's say, merging BMC principles with dance therapy and psychology.
I think I just dove into body mind centering. I mean, it was a full time training, year round, full time
Okay.
for 2 years that we were doing back then. So we were in class a few hours a day,
Right.
and it was a small group, usually there was 10, maybe 12 people. And we just immersed into it. I just immersed into it. We all did. And and we lived and breathed it. And, we would leave class and then we would go into the studio together. Ellen Barlow, Susan Milani, and I were the main ones in that group where we would just spend hours in the studio, moving with our muscles and,
Mhm.
working with the developmental patterns and trying to penetrate this world.
Right.
And it became so, claustrophobic. By the end of the week, I would just walk for hours.
Mm.
Friday afternoon, I would just start walking around town into the hills, just trying to get out of this trance I was in of body mind centering and be a normal person and feel like a normal person. And it'd take me a few hours usually to walk it off,
Right, right. To motor it out.
motor it out. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is this certain point where feeling ourselves for too long puts us into a little bit, how can I put it? I even call it like a psychedelic type of consciousness,
Yeah.
a little bit removed from, let's say, everyday normal quote unquote
Absolutely.
consciousness.
And, now Bonnie does, I mean, I think she still does this. Yeah, I know she still does this. I don't know when she started, but she'd present something and then she'd say, okay, now explore.
Hmm.
And we didn't do that back then. We were just like, into, more and more deeply. How deeply can we go into this?
Right,
So, I think she learned to kind of let it go, break it up, open it up.
of course.
Yeah.
But I guess in any pioneering phase, there is this element of not knowing and just trying it on yourself. Maybe
Yeah.
a little bit too long, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, when she started doing that, but I do know that, early on I knew to do that where I'd say, okay, now let it go. Stop thinking about it, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And so, maybe she was trying and we were resisting. I can't really remember. But
Yeah.
it got intense. It was a very intense classroom in on all levels, you know.
But in your mind, have you always been clear that this is something you want to share with people? Or was it your own personal exploration and, let's say, self improvement, self exploration, and then the sharing part came later? Or were you clear from the beginning that this is something you want to share?
I don't think I was clear from the beginning, but I think I was programmed from the beginning
Hmm.
to learn and then teach, learn and then teach, learn and then teach.
Right.
You know, I think that was kind of in the field how we were all programmed back then. I mean, there were people that were super introverted that didn't teach, you
Mm.
know. But most of us just like thought that's what we were supposed to do, so we did it.
Right. So let's talk about body mind psychotherapy. So this is basically psychotherapy with arising through the BMC principles.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And you know, I when I wrote my first book from a more movement point of view, less psychological point of view. And, you know, Bonnie was very supportive of that. But then the second book I called Body Mind Psychotherapy, and Bonnie just loved that book.
Mm.
And she just said, "This is what I do. It's not what I teach, but it's what I do." And she still likes it better than any of my other books. And so it's a pretty methodical description of the basic neurocellular actions and the systems, and then how do you use those in psychotherapy?
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit more about?
Well, so, you know, when I graduated from body mind centering school, I had a background in psychology, but I didn't want to use it because politically I felt like, you know, um, I felt like it was politically imbalanced because the therapist was the expert, you know, and they were um, somehow dominating the patient's psyche. And so I was just trying to do body mind centering and teach body mind centering and do private body mind centering sessions. And it just didn't work. It just wasn't who I am. And you know, I should say my both my parents were psychologists, so I have a psychological background and education. So in doing body mind centering, I just kept seeing this is really an emotional problem, you know. I
Mhm.
mean, fixing a two vertebrae that are stuck, that's easy. But why are they stuck? And
Right.
what needs to change in this person's being? Because if you get these two moving, then these two will stop moving. If there's a reason for that to be happening. So, you know, just to stay with the vertebral example, then, you know, I was thinking lumbar, you know, whatever's going on in the organs there in front of the vertebrae,
Mhm.
that, you know, digestive stuff, you know, is inseparable from emotional stuff. You can't, you
Right.
know, it's very, very rare to have a digestive problem that's not, doesn't have any psychological roots.
Right.
So, you know, finally I just gave in
Mm.
and, you know, and started opening more to my students and my clients' psychological experiences.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then it became very apparent to me that, you know, this is happening everywhere with everyone, you know. And then, when Bonnie said this thing about the body mind psychotherapy book, this is what I do. It's not what I teach, but it's what I do. And I don't think that's really true because Bonnie is not a very psychological person.
Hmm.
She's got this incredible physicality, and then she's got this huge transpersonal awareness thing going. And her psychological band, it appears to me, I've never said this to her personally, so I don't know if, she would agree, but to me, it feels like her psychological band is tiny, this big physicality, vast transpersonality,
Hmm.
not a lot of psychology happening. She always likes to say, "Oh, I learned about psychology from the clown in the circus." And it's like, okay. So, but I do think it's true in the sense that she doesn't tune out from the psychological element. She's
Hmm.
there, she's present with it. And I think that's absolutely true. It feels like she's present with all levels. It's just she wants to work on the physical level. And she wants that to ripple through to the psychological and the transpersonal or spiritual, if you will, levels.
Right, right, right. I always had a feeling like all these additional elements, like the psychological aspect and the spiritual aspect, I felt that they're kind of in the shadow,
Mhm.
not directly mentioned or imposed upon a person,
Right.
but they are just there hidden in the material, waiting for the individual to find them.
Absolutely.
That's how I've
Absolutely.
felt the whole time, because ever since I immersed myself in the material and started exploring, and it was so clear that it is this interconnectedness
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
all these elements, and
Yeah.
to actually find the emotional and the psychological and the spiritual through the explorations and through the developmental processes. For me, it was like, finding a hidden knowledge, which is not
Yeah.
really talked about,
Yeah.
but it's there. And to be honest, without it, I don't see the point to it. It's like, if we don't touch upon these aspects of ourselves, I don't see the value of staying
Yeah.
only with the physical and the anatomical.
Yeah. Then it's just mechanics.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. I had this experience, I wrote about it in an article that I think was published in Contact. Is that that's what the BMC quarterly is called? Contacts or something. What's it called?
There is Contact Quarterly, but I think that's not it. The BMC journal is called, oh my God, I can't remember right now.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
Currents. It's called
Anyway,
Currents.
currents, right? Currents. Um, so, it was called an attitude of prayerfulness. And it was from I talked to Bonnie about this, what we're talking about now, about the spirituality, because I had had an experience with her. She had come here to Boulder and she was teaching, and it was a big class, at least 200, 250 people in a big room, big, ugly room. And it was after her post polio, early in the recovery, and she wouldn't let the microphone, really, I think it was more like 10 feet. So we were running around holding the microphone If we got too close, she'd tell us to back off. So nobody could really hear what she was saying, out of this 250 people. But what I experienced is her awareness was totally relaxed and it filled the whole room. And everybody was happy.
Right.
Nobody cared they couldn't hear her. So there was something happening, and she just held the whole space in a completely relaxed manner for, however long it was. I have no idea. I think it was more than a day.
Mm.
And and so I realized at that point I had always wanted a woman spiritual teacher, and I'd always had men spiritual teachers. And I realized, oh, I've had a woman spiritual teacher all along. I just didn't know it. So I started talking to her about spirituality and her background, and we had a number of conversations that I took notes from and then put into this article. But it was just what you're saying. It was in the background. It never even occurred to me that she was a spiritual teacher of mine.
Mm.
And yet she was, and she had been the whole time.
Right.
It was just unconscious for me.
Yeah. 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 Because also when we are talking about different systems and let's say this mind of the room which appears, or
Yeah.
even the developmental pattern, and just going back into this initial state of vibration,
Hmm.
I feel we are entering the realm of the unseen, of what
Yeah.
is in the background of everything, what is producing the matter.
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
and this is the
Thank you.
beautiful part of it for me.
Yeah.
The most valuable teachings are the teachings of vibration.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
there are words, and people need words, and they need explanations and to dive in. But my question is always, what is behind? What is
Mm.
behind? And
Yeah.
um, you know, are we advanced enough to just be present in the room together and to feel that the process is happening?
I,
And
I think if we could do that without all the physical anatomical stuff, we would.
exactly, yeah.
But as somebody that spent a lot of time in spiritual contexts and meditation contexts, you know, I think, a lot of them don't really take people very far
Hmm.
because it's not going through the body out into space.
Right.
And it's not helping us see that the physical and the non-physical are a continuity of consciousness.
Hmm.
And that's what Bonnie does without words.
Right.
And so now I've been doing a lot of work with what I call embodied spirituality and embodied meditation and
Hmm.
the pulsatory world. That's something that relates to the vibration. And yeah.
When you were saying this, it took me to this expression, embodied spirituality.
Hmm.
I heard you talk about it, and I really liked how you were saying in one of your videos how spirituality, the word, and especially the religious aspect of it, it used to take us out of the body and aiming to release the body, to leave the body, to search,
Transcend.
transcend, exactly, to search vertically for some higher power.
Mhm.
Whereas this is the other way around, right? This is going inside so we can.
Good. There's the sea sponge, right? Going in to go out, going out to go in.
Exactly, and somehow returning home to the
Yeah.
body, to the material, to the earth.
Hmm.
Can you speak a little bit about that, about this idea of embodied spirituality being connected with this planet that we are living?
Our beautiful planet that we're trashing,
Mm,
we're polluting. Yeah. Let's feel it together for a minute.
mhm,
I go straight to my heart and letting my heart relax and open downward and rest on my diaphragm and all the visceral organs in the abdomen and the pelvic floor. And through your pelvic floor into your chair if you're sitting, or down through to the floor, the earth underneath the floor. And just really searching for that continuity all the way through into the center of the earth. The very center of the earth is, now we know, solid core and then molten lava.
mm,
And then wherever you are, however it is, however much water and rocks and dirt between the surface of the earth and the center of the earth. Letting your brain relax and float down through your neck onto your heart, this ever pulsating heart. The heart is the strongest pulsator in the body, and so therefore it's also the strongest field generator, frequency generator. So our hearts generate a field that's bigger than our bodies. And in the same way, the earth is pulsating. This is science. This is not woo-woo. The earth is pulsating and it's generating a field.
mhm,
And our field blends with the earth's field. And it blends with all the creatures' fields all around us.
mm,
And it ripples out into space, and the atmosphere is pulsating. And then there's pulsation that goes past the atmosphere
mm,
into the whole cosmos. And supposedly the whole universe is pulsating. And if there are multiverses, they're all pulsating. And we can close our eyes and feel our inner pulsation, our heart, but not just our heart, our brains, every organ, muscle, cell, they're all pulsating. It's the nature of life to pulsate.
mm,
And we are a part of the universe, part of the earth,
mm,
and we are the universe and we are the earth. And we are, each of us, our little center of pulsation. That blends with all the other pulsations.
Mm.
So that's what I call entering the pulsatory world. And then I feel like a sea creature. And
Right.
the water's moving and I'm moving and the seaweed and the
Mm-hmm.
fish.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's just bobbing along in this viscous medium of life.
Right. And beautiful. Thank you for this. I just feel this process of attunement brings so much relief.
Yeah, me too.
Like the,
Relief and
yeah,
and poignancy.
yeah.
It's so poignant that we go away from that.
Mm-hmm.
This beautiful thing that unites everything.
Right. It's so nourishing and so healing.
Mhm.
It's like just being attuned to that frequencies. I feel like my cells are going through a process of rest and regeneration.
Yeah, me too. But then, even under the cells,
Yeah.
our consciousness, you
Right.
know, and and when we say attuning to this level, it's like a special thing. But then when we realize all the other creatures live here all the time, and the special thing is that we shut our awareness down to it.
Mm.
And we need to be living in the pulsatory world all the time, just like all the other creatures.
Right.
And the fact that we're not is part of this great clusterfuck that we're all living in right now, where
Exactly.
things are getting more and more conceptual and less lived,
Mm-hmm.
and lived shallowly rather than lived deeply.
Right.
So for me, it's political.
Yeah, of course.
To live in the pulsatory world all the time is my political activism.
Right. Right. Because we are pulsing, we are changing
Yeah.
with our very being.
Yeah.
And there is something about this heart space
Mm-hmm.
as being the center of that pulse. Whether
Yeah.
it's a physical heart or the energetic heart, spiritual heart, I feel they all overlap.
Yes. Yes. I think that's so important that the physical heart is the center of the energetic heart, the spiritual heart.
Mm.
They're not separate in separate locations.
Right. But just diving into that space and shifting that space into the center point of our perception and awareness,
Yeah.
I think that is the greatest shift when the perception, when the heart starts looking and hearing and smelling and it's a different kind of being. It's a different kind of presence.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Mm.
So for me, that was, I heard some of my teachers say, I don't remember who said it exactly, like the longest path that you will go in your life is from head to heart.
Mm.
But in my own spiritual explorations, this shift of consciousness and awakening of the consciousness of the heart was the greatest insight I had. It was literally a moment of awakening, like,
Mhm.
wow.
Mm.
I was
Beautiful.
lost and now I'm here again.
It's beautiful, Ivan. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And we lose it, but once we know it, it's there. It's
Mhm.
it's also something about living in that space more and more,
Mhm. Yeah.
so that we
And
know the
and
difference.
and practicing coming back to it and practicing noticing when we get pulled out of it and feeling, there's something I teach about called energetic leadership.
Hmm.
Am I getting entrained in the chaos of what's around me? Or am I entraining the chaos in the rhythm of my heart?
Mm,
Am I staying centered here and letting that entrain what's around me?
mm. Yeah, beautiful.
And we're part of this world, for better and for worse. This is our world, this moment of time that we're living in with war and conflict and greed and power,
Mm,
confusion. And, we can't just ignore that. We have to be with it in a way that it doesn't overtake us.
right.
Be with it in a way that we can ground it and entrain it, a little bit occasionally,
Hmm.
and we get sucked into it and we go, oh my God, I'm sucked into it. And then we find our way back. Yeah.
That's why I feel it's so important, this whole consciousness of the central axis
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
heart space and the central axis and the grounding and everything
Yeah.
comes with it, because how can we be that connection of earth and heaven without knowing our central axis and how it's moving up and down, and
Yeah.
how to
Yeah.
root ourselves. I always see this central axis not only as a process of traveling, but something that really grounds.
Yeah. Grounds and blossoms.
Right.
Yeah. I heard a Native American teacher say, study the animals of the totem pole, the
Uh-huh.
chakras, but be like the tree.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I call the central axis the movement of life on it. I call it the core flow. And from Tai Chi, I learned that the heart is the center of the whole core.
Mm.
They say heart, mind, and the Dantian.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that you're pulling your heart down. It means that the heart is the center of the whole central axis.
Right.
It's the governor, it's the wisdom, it's the source.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Bless us all.
And it does take us into this attitude of prayerfulness
Mm-hmm.
that you mentioned before.
That was Bonnie's phrase. That was from her grandmother, I think. We were talking about her grandparents, and one of them she learned something from, I think, about Judaism. And the other one, I think she said that she just felt this general attitude of prayerfulness.
Mm-hmm. I love that article, and I loved that title,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, this embodiment process was always about deeply feeling the sacredness of life
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and a certain joy and even gratitude for being
Yeah.
in the midst of all that and being that.
Yeah.
And then this idea of prayer, it can be taken in many different ways. And I wanted to ask you, what is exactly prayer for you?
You know, I saw this young woman on Instagram recently, and she was talking about prayer, and she said, I'm not religious, and I'm not praying to anything. But she was praying for all of us, for herself and for all of us. And I thought it was just the most articulate thing I'd ever heard about prayer. And for me, I've been a Buddhist my whole adult life. And I, was coming from, a little, mild, not heavy Christian background, but I was rebelling against that. And I felt that the church that I went to was hypocritical. And, prayer was, I saw so much praying going on for what people wanted, give me what I want, give me a good parking space kind of prayer, and so I really rejected it for a long time, but I had this experience. I couldn't, my knee was messed up and I couldn't really walk very well for like a year and a half. And it was really hard for me to just sit around all day for a year and a half. And I was very unhappy, more unhappy in a way than I've ever been. And finally, I just like prayed for mercy, which is a very Christian, American Christian. I don't know, in Croatia, if you guys would do that, but I just, prayed for mercy and it came. And I was just like, wow, that was so easy and it was so helpful. Why did I resist it? And so that feeling of mercy, was something I rejected about prayer of I'm little and I'm asking for the greater wisdom to help me. And now I just love it and I just do it all the time. And, yeah, it's very important in my life, and now I can't really tell the difference between meditation and prayer at times. Sometimes it's clear meditation, there's nothing happening. But then sometimes there's endless prayer is what's spontaneously happening, even if it's nonverbal. There's just a, request there, a welling up of please help us. World,
Right.
universe, everybody, please help us.
Right. Right. Yeah, beautiful. And it has to be like that, right? It has to be alive. It has to
Yeah, it
be
has
in the
to be
moment.
alive.
It has to um, bubble up like a spring
Yeah,
again from the vibration through the
yeah,
heart, through through the
yeah,
radiance,
yeah.
again like a
You're
sound.
you're sounding very much like a Buddhist to me, the radiance. That's an important word in English in some aspects of Buddhism.
Right, and it's a lovely word. I really love this terminology coming from sound and music,
Mm, mm,
but also this image of radiance as something rippling out,
yeah,
like a radiation which is spreading,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
also this element of light when
yeah,
something is radiant like a jewel.
yeah,
And the light is also.
yeah. Yeah, the light and the sound, these fundamental elements of the physical world that somehow embody consciousness in a way that nothing more complex can.
Hmm. I have a question that really interests me about these basic neurocellular patterns, or let's say developmental patterns.
Mm-hmm.
What, in your opinion, is their importance for our well being, for our psychology?
Mm-hmm.
And let me just elaborate a little bit more. For me, the whole process of embryology and developmental patterns was very profound, very spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
and very empowering.
Mm-hmm.
But I notice in many modern psychological and psychotherapeutic practices, this whole intrauterine processes have somehow become closely attached to the word trauma. So when people, actually explore these processes, which can give them huge strength and empowerment, they somehow tie it to this trauma. I feel it's almost like a sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like somebody took this way to empower ourselves and redirected it into missing the point. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You know, when the world of pre and perinatal psychology was emerging in the 90s, let's say, when it was getting big, I can't find the right place to start because I want to acknowledge that the whole emphasis on trauma in that world was coming from a good place. It
Mm,
was coming from seeing that some people are so profoundly negatively impacted by seriously difficult birth experiences that they needed to focus on the trauma to unwind those.
mm,
But fundamentally, we've been talking this whole conversation about the relationship between the non-physical, the consciousness, and the physical. And so nowhere, well, not nowhere, but it's such a beautiful thing when you think about the unfolding of an embryo into a infant and the unfolding of an infant into a walking human. And it's all coming from this internal spring that is mind and body. So, you know, those pictures where they show a flower blossoming fast, you know, I mean, it's such a miracle. And that it's the same miracle, this unfolding of life. Because we're so confused as a species right now about being and being together, focusing on trauma becomes a way to address that confusion. But I agree with you. I think you said it in the truest sense. It misses the point of the beauty of becoming and being together and loving each other and growing each other and supporting each other. And, you know, I remember in the 90s, it was such a revelation. It's like, oh, this happened to me in utero. And yes, I can feel it, and I feel how it's imprinted on my whole life. But I had already been teaching developmental movement and teaching people you can add to your development all the time. You know, and there's a bumper sticker that, you know, that says it's never too late to have a happy childhood.
I
You
love
know, and it's the same thing. It's never too late to really feel a beautiful homologous push from the lower that slides you, you know, 10 feet across the ground.
it.
And it's never too late to feel the beauty of being held in a womb, you know. I mean, so what I do in the pre and perinatal world is I look for what was happening, what did work, what was safe, what was gratifying, and grow that so it can move the trauma through.
Mm.
And it's problematic in the psychological world right now because people have become so identified with trauma
Yes.
that they're not growing through the trauma and healing it and opening it and freeing themselves from it. But, you know, I mean, I started talking about this probably 8 years ago. So, you know, we're talking about it now. There are many conversations going on. So we'll just have to help each other grow through this one.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 I loved your sentence from your website. You say challenges are understood as developmental milestones and opportunities for growth.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Would you end our conversation with a little prayer?
Mm. Yes, I will. I feel really grateful to you right now, Ivan. Thank you for reaching out to me and having this conversation. And thank you to Bonnie and the whole world of body mind centering for inspiring us to have this conversation. And may we use everything we've said or thought or heard or felt during this conversation to keep growing through the challenges that we face as a species right now. I don't completely understand why we are the way we are and why we are doing so many silly, horrible things to each other and to the planet. But I have a deep, deep prayer that human beings can evolve to find a way to live on this beautiful, beautiful planet with all the creatures that we haven't eliminated thus far. That we could find a way to be together in a balanced, respectful way. I really, 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 really want that. I hope this is okay with Bonnie that I say this, but we were talking about this a few years ago, and we were talking about what we wanted after death, and she said, I'm not that interested in what's going on this planet right now. I think I want to move on. And I said, oh, please don't move on. I really want us to figure this one out.
Mm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well.
Be well.
You too, Susan.
And be well to all our listeners or viewers. Yeah. Thank you for hanging out with us today.